Today's episode is not for the faint of heart. You have to be very prepared to expand your thought process to really grasp these pieces of knowledge that we're about to dive into. This is something that is still very new to me in my spiritual journey, which is why I'm so grateful to know this beautiful character here, Eddie. What's your last name, Eddie?
Kano.
Eddie Kano.
Yep.
So I'm hoping to learn more about the esoteric, ethereal, and aliens. And I know that you're very experienced with this, right, Eddie?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. So
Absolutely.
Where did it all begin for you? Hey everyone, I'm your host Lanice and welcome to Soulfull. This is a space that'll help you unfold the tools within you to align with your highest self through shared experience. Because at the end of this journey, unique to oneself, we are all interconnected. We are one.
Yeah, my whole life has been really revolving around the esoteric.
Okay.
Grew up in a religious family.
Okay.
Christian and Catholic.
Okay.
And ever since I was a kid, just religion really tripped me out.
Okay.
You know, going to church and seeing these paintings and these windows with these figures on there.
Like the stained glass?
Exactly.
Yep.
One of my earliest memories is actually my mom dropping me off at the daycare at St. Mark's Cathedral in Vista, the really big one.
Ah.
She dropped me off there, and I remember just kind of feeling like weird being surrounded by all these strangers, and then I turn around and there's just this huge painting of Jesus just staring over us. And
yeah, how is that for a kid, right, to see that?
Yeah, I thought it was all weird. Religion played a huge part in that as a kid. It was really weird. Mm-hmm. And then the stories really captivated me.
The messages.
Mm-hmm. The stories, the characters, and like the weirdness in it all. But early on as a kid, my grandpa kind of tripped me out. He is an interesting figure. Throughout our whole life, he's always kind of been like distant.
Okay.
And he's like a habitual cigarette smoker.
Oh.
And he's just always out in the distance smoking cigarettes and just looking at the sky. And he used to be a pastor.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, he used to be a pastor, and then went through some troubles in his life, became an alcoholic. And my mom, being the oldest of four, they lived in a van for a while, and I had to kind of like bring him back up, to himself. But he was always just smoking cigarettes, looking at the sky. And one day I asked him, like, "Hey, Grandpa, why are you always looking at the sky?"
Yeah.
And he said, "'Cause I've seen a UFO." And I was like 8 years old at this time.
Wow, and your grandpa told you that you've seen a UFO, and you knew what a UFO was? Yeah,
because actually, ever since I was a kid, too, he was always like posted on the couch watching Unsolved Mysteries. Yeah, as far back as I can remember, he was always just posted up on the couch whenever they would take care of us, and he'd be watching Unsolved Mysteries, like the original series. And I'd post up with him right there and be watching these stories about alien abductions and stuff. So I knew what that stuff was early on, like 5, 6 years old. And then later on, when I was like 8, 9, and I asked him that, and he revealed to me the reason why he's always looking at the sky smoking is because he's seen a UFO once. And it's just left him perplexed. So he was kind of always wanted to relive that.
Wow. He sounds too kind of like a very deep thinker.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's not like he saw that and just overlooked it.
Yeah.
He saw that and he had questions, it seems like.
Absolutely. That was kind of like my next question to him as a kid. I mean, I've always been a deep thinker too. Mm-hmm. And I asked him, I was like, knowing that he was a pastor and I grew up in this religious family. I asked him, like, well, how do you feel about God then?
Yeah, exactly, because there's no aliens in the Bible. I mean, I haven't read the Bible, but...
So we think.
Exactly. I feel as though, we've never actually seen the word alien in the Bible. Mm-hmm. And I can't tell you what book it is, but I remember my aunt telling me something about the description of angels having giant heads and being really, really tall beings.
Yeah, she's pretty close. Yeah, we can get into that in a second. That's kind of like my expertise. Actually, is aliens in the Bible.
Oh my gosh, I love this. Tell me more.
Yeah, I will. So going back to my grandpa, I asked him, and I was like, so, like, how do you feel about God now?
Yeah.
And he just took a puff and looked at me and said, I don't know.
Wow.
And that shook me to my core as a kid. I was just like, whoa.
Because
like,
he was a pastor.
He was a pastor. I was in this religious family. Now aliens are like a possibility in my life.
Wow.
So
and
right
you were
then
so
and there.
young.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then from 8 to like 12, I went through a lot of things, and then got into psychedelics at a really young age. 13 years old.
Wow.
My first shroom trip, smoking weed habitually. And at that time I was an introvert, so I was always reading and looking into like crazy stuff, and it just opened a world in my mind to the esoteric. And
at a very young age, it sounds like.
Were
you able to grasp that without losing that grounding that we all kind of need when we think out that far?
No. No, there was a lot of times where my paradigm shifted.
Wow.
Yeah, and some of those times were pretty rough.
Yeah, I can imagine, because I've actually spoken with another guest of mine on the topic of, kind of needing to be an adult and having that fully developed brain to experience that expansion of the mind, because when we're kids, it's not fully developed quite yet.
No, not at all. Yeah, it's taken me a long time. So from that point forward, pretty much my whole life has been trying to uncover and understand this information.
Exactly.
And I've just recently, the past like 4 or 5 years, like really started to get that mature outlook and aspect on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were kind of like flooded with like all these downloads of information and these like secrets that really aren't supposed to be secrets, but in this matrix system, what I call the matrix society, it's like we're kind of trained to associate that with craziness, blasphemy. Absolutely.
And that's really the story. Like when you start to look at history, that's really been the history of humanity, is the elite or whatever trying to keep our true history away from us. Exactly. And that's what I uncovered through this. Yeah, I mean, we can get into it, if you want to, as far as aliens in the Bible.
Yeah, tell me more. Where does it start?
Yeah, that's kind of where it went, I mean, from that point forward, 8 years old, 12 years old, it was the weed and then the hip hop. And then there was a song that really changed my mind also.
What song is it?
It's The Winds of War by Jedi Mind Tricks.
Love Jedi Mind Tricks.
Yeah, I love them too. The Winds of War. There was a statement in there that would forever change my life. And it goes, where are you going to stand when the Elohim return?
Elohim.
Yeah. Where are you going to stand when the Elohim return? I would be high, like walking around like a preteen, just listening to that. And I'm like, I just loved it. But I was like, who are the Elohim? And like, where am I going to stand when they return?
Which tribe?
Exactly. And interesting enough, that's actually what I have tattooed right here on my arm.
Wow.
It's Elohim. That's how much it has impacted me.
Wow. What language is that in?
This is Hebrew.
Wow.
Hebrew. This tattoo is kind of like my most... It gets me into a lot of trouble. Not like real trouble, but people love this tattoo. Especially like Middle Eastern people. Anytime they see this tattoo, they like assume that I'm Middle Eastern and start talking to me in like Hebrew or Aramaic or Arabic. I was like, whoa, bro, like I'm Mexican, I smoked weed, I got a tattoo. I had this lady one time just grab my arm. She's like, pray to this every night.
Wow.
No, God. People get really, really like emotional about this.
Wow.
Yeah, and we can get into that too, because Hebrew has a very deep fascination with the letters. Their alphabet is very deep, the way they view it.
I mean, it seems very ancient in a way. Is it?
Yeah, super ancient. It's super ancient. And the way they view their alphabet is like binary code. Wow. So every letter is assigned a number.
Wow.
Yeah, it's called gematria.
Gematria.
Yeah, gematria. It's the study of the correlation between what they call God's alphabet, because the alphabet was given to them by God, as they say. And we can get into who that is, who they are. And it's a code. So every word, every sentence actually has a binary correlation.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty deep.
So you're saying that's like a number system?
Yeah, it's got a number system. I don't know it. I've never learned it, but if you want to learn it, it's called gematria.
Gematria. I'm gonna have to look that up. I wonder if there's a connection between that and synchronicity, because I have this infatuation with 222. It follows me everywhere. I feel like it's angels, protection.
Yeah. Well, numerology kind of stems from gematria.
Wow. See, it's all connected somehow. That's intuitive too. Like, I don't know anything about this. It's just like a feeling,
Exactly.
It's ideas that you kind of connect the dots to.
Yeah. No, yeah, knowledge is there. It's always been there. And then when you start awakening, you start having the intuition, and then the intuition turns into knowledge. When you start to realize these intuitions were leading you to knowledge that's been there since the beginning of humanity.
Wow. And you told me that you've had a couple awakenings.
I have.
So, I mean, I've only had one, and my goodness, is it a roller coaster even still now? So can you enlighten me with?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I wanted to kind of finish that thought on the Elohim real quick.
Yes, please. That's my ADD talking too. I'm
no,
sorry.
It's all good. I just want to make this linear for the people because
yes, clean. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. So yeah, when I found out, that my grandpa used to be a pastor, believed in aliens, that he saw a UFO, and then I heard this term, the Elohim, where you're gonna stand when they return. I was just kind of diving into that, and then there was another time period, and all these things are like little awakenings for me. Little awakenings.
Little pieces, just kind of unlocking another door.
Yeah, and when I think back on these time periods, they have like an aura around them. I remember, they were special.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's like something symbolic to you.
It seems like
that information.
Yeah, it seems like almost if I want to be really extremely deep about it, it seems like something was there guiding me, and I didn't know it at the time.
I totally understand that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's how I feel now.
Yeah. So from that point, and then there was a time period where my second oldest brother went to rehab in Los Angeles or Orange County, so 2 hours away from us, and we'd go visit him, and sometimes he'd have family time where he could leave the center, and my mom would take us, me and my 3 siblings, to the Barnes & Nobles.
Love Barnes & Noble.
Yeah, I love reading.
It's a great store.
Absolutely, really tight. So yeah, we'd go there. And I would linger on in the metaphysical New Age section because I was starting to open up at that time, and I wanted some more knowledge. And I came across another piece of information that would change my life forever. And that was the book titled The 12th Planet by Zecharia Sitchin.
The 12th Planet?
Yeah, The 12th Planet by Zecharia Sitchin. He wrote a series in the 70s called The Earth Chronicles.
Okay.
And he was the first dude to really propose the theory that humanity was genetically created by a race of aliens.
Wow.
Yeah.
How deep is that?
Yeah.
How deep does that go? Wow.
Yeah.
And when did he write this? Do you know?
The 70s.
Wow.
In the 70s. So he must have been working on it in the 60s, and then...
Wow.
Well, when you read the book, he tells you it's been in his life since he was a kid.
Oh my goodness.
Since he was a kid. He was a Russian-born... he was Russian-born, but he grew up in Hebrew school. In the Hebrew schools. And he was a super smart kid too, and he would do his own independent studies on translating Hebrew into Russian and then English.
Wow.
And he noticed his teachers, deliberately or not, were wrongfully translating a lot of the words.
So he was correcting his teachers.
He was correcting his teachers.
Wow.
And then that's what set him off in his journey, when he realized that the authority wanted to, go with their narrative when it was a wrong one.
Yeah, they weren't even thinking about it. They're just following what was taught to them.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. So I go from, the alien to the Elohim to this book. And that time period was a trip, going to LA to see my brother, and we'd all sit there and read together. And then here I am, like 14, 15, reading this book, and it's dense with information, like very dense. Took me years to like finish it. I had to go back to it multiple times.
I was gonna say, did you really have to go back and like just kind of digest like over and over and over?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was in high school. I didn't even want to learn at that time. I was not a good student, but I always liked history.
Wow.
I always liked history. That was my favorite class. My teachers didn't like me, but I liked the class. But so here I am reading The 12th Planet by Zecharia Sitchin, and he tells me exactly who the Elohim are.
Wow.
He tells you who they are. And so...
How did you come across this book? How did you come across this? Because you had heard of Elohim, but then like, how did you even find this at Barnes & Noble?
Barnes & Nobles. So at the time, I was already kind of like diving into, esoteric, occult stuff. And I would go through the shelves, and they had a section titled Metaphysical and New Age.
Okay.
And I had already heard those terms through like documentaries that I was watching at the time. So I was like, all right, this is my stuff right here. Like,
okay, cool.
And I was just looking through it, and I saw this little book.
Breadcrumbs.
Exactly. And I saw, and it was the cover that got me. It was just like, it was like this weird looking planet with like a statue like on the ground, like covered in sand. And I was like, whoa, like the 12th planet, like this.
Wow.
And it said nonfiction, and that's what got me. I was like, nonfiction? Wow. Like, okay, like let's see what this is about. And then my mind was blown. Completely blown.
That's history that you weren't going to find in school.
Not at all. Not at all. Not in school, not in the church. And the funny thing is, it's right in front of you. Like, I grew up in a religious family, and the funny thing about church is the way they teach you the Bible, it's like a runaround way. They teach it to you so that you never actually read it correctly. Like you spend like 2 or 4 hours sometimes going over like a few passages, a few verses. And they just go over the same verses, every holiday they go over the same verses, the same thing.
Right.
So they're just teaching you the little things in there that fit their narrative to keep you to come back and give the tithings and stuff.
Yeah.
But the knowledge is right there. If you pick up the Bible and you read it, for face value, it's right there in front of your face.
Wow.
Especially if you do a little extra work to go back and find what the true translations are.
So how did you do that?
Starting off with Zecharia Sitchin.
Okay.
He's the one who pointed it out to me through his book that there were different translations and that we were propagating the wrong ones this whole time.
Wow. I love that word, propagating.
Yeah.
That's something we use for plants, but it's all connected.
Planting it, right?
Wow.
But so the Elohim, I guess I'll just unravel that. So
yes, please do.
Before I do that, people have to understand that Christianity comes from Judaism, and Judaism comes from old world religions that are just kind of gone, but we still have a lot of information on them. So without Judaism, there's no Christianity, but without the old world religions, there's no Judaism. So if you kind of just get stuck in Christianity, you're only seeing one piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Judaism, is that the religion where there's many gods?
No, Judaism is the Jewish religion.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's what they call it, Judaism. So there's the Old Testament and the New Testament.
Okay.
The Old Testament was put together around 600 BC.
Okay.
When the Jews were in Babylonian exile. So the Babylonians took the Jews, captivated them, made them slaves. Yeah. And it was in that time period where they were like, all right, we need to write down our history.
Exactly.
We need to write down who we are and what we've been through before we're completely wiped out. Wow. So that's when the Old Testament was put together, 600 BC, around that time by the elders of Judaism. We don't really know who they were. Yeah. I mean, the Pentateuch, as it's called, which is the first 5 books of the Old Testament, are attributed to Moses. So they claim that Moses wrote the first 5 books, Genesis, Deuteronomy, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
And then comes a crazy wild dude named Jesus. Right? He comes and then just upsets the whole social order. By that time,
he was a rebel.
By the time he comes around, Judaism had, created its own empire. There was the Jewish priesthood. They were kind of like the overseers of their people and starting to be like a little more like evil and conniving. And that's why Jesus in the New Testament comes and like tells them to stop what they're doing, overturn these weird archaic traditions and go back to a more spiritual way of living.
Wow.
But so the Old Testament belongs to Judaism. Jesus comes, does his thing, dies, goes wherever he goes, and we can get into that. He does his thing, and then his followers write the New Testament.
Wow.
As a linear story. Star Wars 1, Star Wars 2.
Oh my goodness, please tell me more. I've heard things about this real life Star Wars from my breathwork instructor, actually. Yeah,
well, a lot of movies and entertainment are based on the esoteric. Actually, what's his name? George Lucas, the director of Star Wars. He confronted Zecharia Sitchin when he was working on the first Star Wars to ask him for advice.
Wow.
On like mythology and stuff like that.
Wow.
So Zecharia Sitchin was approached by George Lucas on getting some advice on building mythology and legend that could be rooted in our actual history.
It makes so much sense, and there's connections.
Yeah.
In these movies.
Yeah. And then when you learn that Hollywood loves the occult, they know all this stuff. A lot of like the Hollywood directors and writers, they know all this stuff. So they kind of work it into their movies a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah. So, okay, where was I? So, Elohim, kind of lost my track there, but yes. All right, Judaism, Christianity.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm reading Zecharia Sitchin's The 12th Planet, and he says that, okay, so in Judaism, God has 72 different names. In the Old Testament, God has 72 different titles or names.
Wow.
And as I told you, like in Judaism, words are very important because they believe that God created everything through word. Because the very first sentence in the Old Testament is God said, "Let there be light," and there was a light. Boom. So there's a huge concept in Judaism and mystical Judaism that God creates through frequency, which is what word is.
Exactly.
What spoken word is.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you heard about that water test?
The
Japanese water test.
Yep.
I forget his name, but he does like the 2 cups. One's only surrounded by positive words.
Yeah.
And the other's only surrounded by negative words. And the acidity in the cup around bad words was so potent, and the positive was more alkaline.
Yeah, and even through like the microscope, the way that they looked was so significantly different. Like the bad one was just all discombobulated, and then the good one was like a nice crystalline like snowflake.
Yes, exactly.
Damn.
Exactly.
Yeah, so they believe that to like the 10th degree. So that's why when people see me having this tattoo, they like get really attached to it because I literally have the name of God on me. So it's like to them it has like healing powers. But so getting back to that, so Elohim, right? So God has 72 different titles, but what we misunderstood really is that they're not necessarily names or titles. In certain places in the Bible, the words that are used to denote God were improperly translated. For example, in Genesis, like first of all, the Old Testament doesn't use the word God at all. You know, that's like a Anglo-Saxon word that came later, right? So in the Bible, where we just see God everywhere, in the English translations, there are 72 different variations that are being used.
Wow.
And you need to like really break those down as to like what's being said, who is really being spoken of.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Because again, it goes back to the frequency.
Absolutely. The frequency and the history of what is being said.
Wow.
So in the book of Genesis, the first book, where God says, where God creates mankind, the word that is used is not God, it's Elohim. In Genesis 1:26, you can go to any English Bible, you know, a little more, maybe not like super modern, but like King James, some of the earlier English translations, you can open it up to Genesis 1:26, and you will see it says, and God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness. So they left the plurality of the context. There's a us, there's a our, but it's like, that doesn't make sense. Why would God say, let us make man in our image after our likeness?
Wow.
The reason being is because the word God wasn't used when that, you know, verse was written. The word Elohim was used. And Elohim is actually a plural word in Judaism.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this goes with everything that I believe in. How the connectedness, the union, the power that's behind that is so important.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, so Zecharia Sitchin proposes through his books that this Elohim, this congregation of beings that were creating us, were doing so through a scientific genetic experiment. And he gets deep into why he believes that. And so we can leave that there, right? And we'll kind of venture off into the science, the scientific evidence behind how that could possibly be true.
Absolutely, because I know there's a lot of skeptics out there who question, you know, whether any of this is just fluff or if there's true meaning behind it. I know there's true meaning behind it. I can feel that. But there's so many people who still need to be introduced.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's right now, it's like more than ever, people are really starting to wake up to that.
Yes.
Especially with
Absolutely.
The government going through this whole disclosure thing.
Right.
Just being upfront about them knowing about UFOs.
In June.
Yeah.
That happened in June, and I'm telling you, I was telling people, I knew it was going to happen. I just knew it. I had a feeling.
Yeah.
And I literally, around the time when Joey had first died, I was, you know, really, really depressed and whatnot, of course. But I would pray that I wouldn't wake up in the morning. Like, I prayed, like, I don't want to be here. Please just take me.
Wow.
And one night, I had this dream, and I was just underneath a bright white light my entire dream. And I was awake for a long time in that dream. I woke up, and I felt like I hadn't slept at all. I was tired.
Really?
Yeah, and I was just under a white light. And, like, at first I was like, God. But then I was like, I'm so exhausted. Like, why am I so tired? I feel like I've been awake somewhere else.
Yeah.
Aliens? Like, I just, the thought passed. And, like, I'm at a point now in my life where, like, I have to question it all.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I actually, just sidetracking real quick, I have this weird memory, and I don't know if it's like a dream or a memory, one of those weird things. When I was a kid, I remember playing in my grandma's backyard on the swing, and this, like, whoa.
It's okay.
Sorry about that, people. But I was playing on the swing, and I remember seeing like this angel, this female angel, I remember it in my memory, coming down. It was just like this light coming down, but the light personified itself as a female angel, and it kind of just like took me, and I was like, all right. And then like time just kind of went for however long, and then I was just back on the swing, and I was just like,
wow.
And I really don't know if that was like
the chills.
A dream or memory or what, but
wow.
Yeah, abductions definitely happen.
And I don't think that they're all bad.
No.
I question if any of them are bad, to be honest.
Yeah, that's more of like a Hollywood thing.
Right?
I watched a Joe Rogan episode with Travis Walton.
Oh, yes.
Travis Walton, he's got one of the more famous abductee stories. And it was pretty hard to watch. So you can tell he had gone through something traumatic. For us, we're just listening to like a cool story, but for these people, that's like one of the most traumatic things they'd ever gone through.
It's real, yeah.
Yeah, and he said something that was funny. He said even though it was very traumatic for him, he didn't really believe that what they were doing was evil. He felt like it was more kind of like an indifferent thing. Like whatever it was, it's not evil or necessarily good. It's just like a indifferent thing that they're kind of just processing. What he said was funny. It was like, at least they had the courtesy to drop me back off.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
That is that's a term of kindness. If you think about it.
Yeah.
Like, we just need to borrow you real quick, and we're gonna return you. My breathwork instructor, again, he believes in all this kind of stuff, and he formed this theory once of the Greys being completely unemotional, and I believe he explained them as being evolved versions of human beings once we had outlived all of our resources.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
And what he explained it as, like, the behavior of the Greys was that they have no emotion, which is why the abductions back in the 50s were more traumatic, because they didn't know that they were harming us. They were simply testing to understand us. And as we get closer to present time, abductions aren't as traumatic from what has been reported. And his theory is that because the Greys are actually starting to understand emotion after observing us for so long, which again is just an idea. Again, I don't know anything about aliens, but that sounds
sounds pretty true.
It sounds like it would make sense.
Yeah. And then Dr. Stephen Greer, you familiar with him?
No.
He's also another dude on the forefront right now with disclosure, and his story is insane. Check him out.
I'm gonna have
Dr. Stephen Greer. He's got a few documentaries out. He's been on Joe Rogan.
Okay.
And he actually teaches people how to contact ETs.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I need to watch.
He teaches people how to do it. Wow. But the ETs that he contacts are more of like the conscious type. They're not like the Greys or the UFOs.
Like Syrians.
They're more like the ethereal. Like they're just more like energy, like energy beings.
Oh.
Yeah. And
like not in a vessel.
Yeah, exactly. They're just more like free-forming energy type beings.
Whoa.
But they have manifested to him throughout his childhood as something physical. Like before, he saw one of them manifest as a half deer.
Oh my god, that's like so polar.
Yeah, no, not the demon. That was scary.
That was good. You caught me. I was like, whoa.
No, half deer, which I thought was pretty cool, pretty badass. Like it looked like a deer at first. He said it was a deer that was standing up, and then he I guess it got closer. It was just like this entity that looked like a deer, and then kind of like free formed back to energy, and then disappeared.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's different aliens or entities out there, and we could definitely get into that. I just want to get back to the Elohim.
Yes, please do.
So the Elohim, here we're going through this whole process in my mind. I find out, okay, like at some point in humanity's history, we are genetically engineered. And it kind of makes sense. So Zecharia Sitchin, what he proposes is, first and foremost, we don't know where our current species of human came from. So there's been different... We
form ideas, and yes.
Yeah. There's been different species. We are called Homo sapien sapien. So we're Homo sapien part 2. The original Homo sapien came on the scene about 11,000 years ago.
Wow.
11,000 years ago. We came on the scene, and then we progressed to the first civilization, which was the Sumerian Civilization, around 6,000 BC. 6,000 BC.
Wow.
Yeah, so out of nowhere, the first caveman actually was about 2 million years ago. So the first caveman that we can trace our lineage to, it's about 2 million years ago. So from 2 million years ago, and then randomly about 11,000 years ago, we became a whole new species that was able to create civilization.
Wow.
And it's called the missing link. It's called the missing link. We don't know how we went from Neanderthal, which is what we were before we became Homo sapien, to Homo sapien. Neanderthal was that's our distant cousin.
Right, they died off. They
died off. Yeah, it was kind of strange too. We found grave sites of them with their skulls bashed in, hundreds of them. Yeah. So
Wow.
it's almost like they were deliberately wiped out. It kind of seems
intentional.
like. Yeah, the Neanderthal. So the Neanderthal was just disappeared at one point about 11,000 years ago, and then we come, the Homo sapiens, and those are like the early like hunter-gatherer dudes, and then Homo sapiens sapien happens, and that's our true first ancestor, which are the civilization builders, the Sumerians.
Wow.
And the Sumerians, they're our oldest ancestors that we can trace any form of our modern world to.
Okay.
They were the creators of the first written language.
Wow.
They built the first structures, really big, huge step pyramids, which are called ziggurats.
Ziggurats?
Yeah, they're called ziggurats.
I didn't know that. I like that word though.
Yeah, they're like pyramids, but they have steps. They kind of look like Mayan pyramids in a way.
Wow.
They have like the steps. They're called ziggurats. So they built those. They created the first laws, the first schools, the first everything pretty much. The first everything. Our counting system, our calendars are all come from them. So they're our true like ancestors, the Sumerians, and they come from what is modern day Iraq.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. Which just unfolds more because
wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, my mind's like questions.
Absolutely, and feel free to ask any. I just kind of just get going.
No, I want you to kind of just release it. I'll get back to the important ones because I feel like everything you have to speak on right now is just. It's
Absolutely.
Literally guidance right now.
Cool. Yeah, so that there's some people that speculate that there were other reasons why we went to Iraq in the war.
Exactly. Can you tell me more on that?
Yeah, well, anytime I meet an Iraqi who was there during that time period, or an Iraqi or a soldier who went to the Iraq war, I love to ask him questions. So I've had firsthand experiences with people. And I want to share one that doesn't really have to do with the esoteric, that was just very moving, though, that I think the world should hear.
Absolutely.
It was an Uber driver. He was originally from Iraq. He was like my age at the time. We were like 24, 25.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, Iraqi. And I was like, oh, what, cool. Like, dude, tell me, like, how was it growing up over there? And he was there when the war happened, like right when it happened. And he said he was just graduating high school, getting ready to graduate high school. And here come the Americans, and we were just bombing them, just dropping bombs. And people were just dying left and right. Most of his friends were gone. He'd seen some of his friends dead on the street, family members dead on the street. I mean, his whole life was turned upside down into flames. But what was very touching is his high school teacher still motivated him and his classmates to still come to school every day. He told them, don't let this distract you. Just come to school. You're gonna graduate. You're gonna get a graduation.
Wow.
And so he still went to school no matter what, and just graduated.
People are dying from U.S. bombs, and they're still focused on graduation. Yeah,
just trying to live normal and just try to just grow up and live a normal life.
Wow.
Yeah, and then eventually his dad got him out of there, and they came over here. So that was crazy. And then I started talking to him about the Elohim and everything, and he had never heard about it. I'm like, dude, you got to research this stuff. These are your people.
Wow.
These are your people. So I hope you looked into it.
Well, I hope he finds you on here maybe somehow in some place and time.
I remember that guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Sumer is what is modern day Iraq.
Okay.
And to this day I've met soldiers who have gone to Iraq, who were there, and some of them admitted that we were told to go and secure some of the ancient sites and take them over.
Whoa.
And we looted a lot of things out of the ancient sites.
For what purpose?
Who knows? There's a theory, there's a fun one that gets bounced around in the conspiracy world, that we were secretly trying to find a Stargate.
Wow.
Yeah, there's that theory.
Wow.
Yeah. Before we get into that, well, Saddam Hussein, right, the dude that we went after and killed or whatever, he was spending billions of dollars to refurbish these ancient sites. He wanted his people to go back to their knowledge.
What?
Yeah, he knew about this.
In the time when we were just like going over and invading, this was his project. It was.
Yeah. Granted, he was a crazy motherfucker, you know? Like, not going to take anything away from that.
Right.
But he did have a pride for his ancient culture, and he was spending billions of dollars to refurbish these ancient ziggurats.
Wow.
Which, under Obama, allegedly, ISIS, because there's the whole thing in the conspiracy world that the Obama administration kind of funneled money to ISIS. ISIS, about 5 years ago, completely destroyed a lot of these places. Just bombed the shit out of them.
So it's gone.
A lot of it is, yeah.
Because of the U.S.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The ziggurat, it's called the Ziggurat of Ur, U-R. That was the capital of the Sumerian Civilization. That's still standing, and we held that down as a what do you call it, a base during the war.
Okay.
We secured that as a base, looted some stuff out of it. But that ziggurat is a testament to the Sumerians and our lineage, to the gods, because that ziggurat was built, as a Sumerian clay texts tell us, it was built to venerate their chief deity, who was the god, the father of all the gods. His name was Anu. Anu. And it has said that, we'll get into that. Mm-hmm. So here you have the Bible, right?
Yeah.
Saying that the Elohim created mankind.
Mm-hmm.
And here you have scientists in our world saying that there's a missing link between Neanderthal and Homo sapiens.
Right.
Out of nowhere, we become a civilization-building people. Mm-hmm. So, as Zecharia Sitchin says, what we need to do is listen to that first civilization and hear what they had to say, which is the Sumerians. And they tell you straight up, they don't hide it. They tell you, everything we do and everything we know is because of the gods.
Yep. And that's why is that why we see all of these like temples and these like crazy built structures that like can't possibly be explained for that period of time? Mm-hmm. I mean, like they didn't have any kind of conveyor or like anything that builds
absolutely
construction. Yeah. Like
that's exactly why. He has another book that I love that goes into the history of America. Specifically the Mesoamerica, like the Mexicans, the Aztecs. Mm-hmm. He talks about them, and it's the same story. If you go back and you read the Aztec or the Mayan stories, or even the people of Peru, the earliest indigenous people, they talk about these strange gods that came out of nowhere and taught them how to build pyramids and then just dipped out.
Wow. Now who are these gods?
Exactly.
That's
these
the
gods.
Question.
So the Sumerians called them the Anuna.
Anuna.
Those of Anu. Anuna. Also the Anunnaki, which can be translated as those of Anu and Ki, which Ki was Anu's wife.
Huh. I've heard of Anunnaki.
Yeah, that's a very popular term these days.
That rings a bell, yeah.
Yep, he's Zecharia Sitchin. Anytime you hear Anunnaki or even the ancient alien theory, it's because of him.
Okay. Absolutely.
But he translated Anunnaki as those who come from heaven to earth.
Wow.
Because Ki actually means heaven as well. Ki means heaven. Ki means earth. Ki means earth, and Anu means heaven. So like Anunnaki can mean like those from heaven who came to earth.
Wow.
So those who, pretty much aliens, you know? The people from space who came to earth.
Yeah, like what is the idea of heaven? At least to you, what is the idea of heaven?
Well, again, going back to the translational issues that we have with the Bible. Mm-hmm. Heaven, again, is an English word that comes from the Europe. Mm-hmm. But where we find heaven in the Bible, there's different words that are used. In ancient times, prior to Judaism, heaven always meant space. That's what it meant.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I have this theory, I call all my listeners my angelians. I don't know where this came from. I took a trip to Joshua Tree and with two of my girlfriends, and I called us angelians.
I saw that. I like that.
I posted something about it, we are all aliens disguised as angels, disguised as humans. Absolutely. All we have is us.
Yeah.
Act like it.
Yeah, seriously. And that's kind of one of the first paradigm shifts that I had when I was reading all this and realizing it, you know, coming from a religious family where like God was God, Jesus was Jesus, and I'm like, what? God was an alien, and there was multiple of them, and they genetically created us.
Right.
I went through paradigm shifts that like broke my mind for a little bit, and I was tripping.
Wow.
I was tripping. Like I'd be at church kind of like just tripping, you know, and people would be like talking to me, and like I'd be like, you know, like, yeah, man, like we really gotta like love each other, man, because like it's really all we got, you know, because yeah.
So like when you're sitting in church, you already had these downloads of information.
Yeah.
How did you sit? How did you sit through that and like not try to conform others? Because I feel like in religion we constantly are saying like, no, you're wrong, but it's like, for some people, I believe in their lifetime that's appropriate for them, that's what they can retain. So how did you do that? How did you sit with yourself and all that extra stuff?
Well, I didn't.
Oh shoot! Okay.
It's all good.
Or you could do that.
I went through the phase of what I guess you can call fear mongering.
Fear mongering.
Yeah, it's like what preachers do. You know, you're gonna go to hell.
Oh.
I went through that phase because I was like tripping. I was legitly tripping. My mind was going through an existential crisis, and all I wanted to do was just share this information. And like I felt like I had to wake people up.
Everything you were told was a lie. So it's like, hello, everybody.
Yeah, it got bad. Like I was like, what I used to do is I used to write things on like tape, and then I used to like put it on my like walls. I would write like God is an alien, and I'd like put it on my walls. I just had these posters everywhere. I was like researching stuff.
Wow, you had to get it out.
Yeah, and I would go to school. I was in high school, and I used to have this homie. I was an introvert in high school, you know, pretty shy kid, but I had this homie who was like the first, functioning meth addict that I ever met.
Oh my goodness. Did you know that at the time?
Yeah. He snorted it, which is like, people who typically snort it, I guess, they don't really show it a lot, you know.
Interesting.
It's a whole different world. But he was a really funny dude, Leo. Funny dude. He was like a Mexican dude, likes to like dress fancy. Those kind of dudes, like into corridos and stuff. Proper, you know, snorts some meth. You know, those guys do that.
Oh my goodness.
But he loved me, man, and he I would tell him this stuff. I'd be high on weed and telling him this stuff, and he just loved it. He's just like tripping out, like, man, this is sick. Like, you got to go tell everybody about this. So he would like take me around and like build audiences for me. Like, hey, like tell these fools about the aliens.
Take it away, Eddie.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, so check it out, man. So like, there's the Elohim, right?
Wow.
So I would always have this like little speech that I would give in high school, and I would just like making my rounds throughout school, like just going off. And me and him would during block period. Remember that? Like block period?
Yeah.
You spend like 2 hours in one class.
Yep.
We had a class together, and we'd steal like sticky notes, and we'd write like stuff on there, like research the Anunnaki or research Planet X, and we'd go stick them everywhere. You know, so like I definitely went through my phase where I was like preaching it.
You're planting seeds.
Yeah, I was.
At a young age.
Freaking people the fuck out.
I'm sure.
There was this one chick who got so afraid of what I was saying. She had nightmares for days.
Oh my
and
goodness.
She nicknamed me Demon.
She wasn't ready.
No, she
wasn't ready for it.
She wasn't.
Wow.
She was cool though. I ended up seeing her years later after high school, and she's like, dude, like, you still researching that stuff? That stuff's true, dude. Like,
see, you planted that for her.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I went through that phase for sure. And then not till later on, like now I've matured and realized that you can't just give people this information right away. You gotta like feel them out. Yeah,
exactly. You gotta feel it out. You can't just spit it everywhere you go, because there's a certain label that one can receive when you're like that, you know. Anyway, think about, you know, I was just in Las Vegas recently, and there was this super Christian dude with a speaker and a microphone on the strip, you know, like preaching like verses, and it's like people are automatically going to tune you out because of your approach. You know what I mean? I almost took the microphone, like, dude, this is how you got to do it.
Welcome. Would anybody like to hear it?
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
Like, at least ask us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so went through that, and I mean, I can just go on. There's so many pieces of information. Okay, let's go here. Well, do you have any questions?
No, I'm just waiting to hear about the aliens too.
Okay.
But no, please dive into this, digest it all, break it down.
Yeah, so Zecharia Sitchin, he gave us that theory, and he wrote a lot of books. The Earth Chronicles, it's 7 or 9 books, all on this theory, and he gives you a lot of detail.
You said Earth Chronicles?
Yeah, the Earth Chronicles.
I've heard of those.
Yeah, so the Anunnaki, as he claimed, were... Now, he doesn't think that they are like the creators of all, because even in their text, the Anunnaki venerate the creator of all.
Wow. Is that even possible to know what the highest creator is? I mean, I know it's energy, essentially.
Yeah.
But I feel like, even being in this body, we are so limited.
Yeah.
We don't truly know what freedom is because we're here. We're trapped literally inside of this. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So how can we possibly access that ever?
Yeah. Well, that's the work of the mystics. The mystics, like the Gnostics, the Greek philosophers.
That's as close as we can get.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's like the physical aspect of it, right? Like these beings called the Anunnaki who have a whole mythology and story of themselves, who came here. The story goes that in the text that they came here 400,000 years ago and found us in our caveman-like slumber. And they had their own mission going on. They had their own thing that they were escaping or trying to do. And the earliest story about them actually is a story called, I think, the Enuma Elish. And it's a story about how they came here and it was just them, first and foremost, doing their operations here. A lot of what they were doing, for whatever reason, was mining for minerals, probably gold, silver, all kinds of things, which is strange because in Africa there are caverns where we have found hammers and pickaxes that are like over 20,000 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, and modern history teaches us that we're only like about 8,000 years old, if that. And here we are finding like hammers and pickaxes that are like over 20,000 years old.
Oh my goodness. So
in the story of Enuma Elish, the gods were here doing whatever they were doing, digging, building things, and then they got over it.
Interesting.
The lower ranking gods got over it and were like, dude, we can't just be doing this like while the other gods are just chilling, living it up, like the higher ones.
What were they searching for?
Yeah, that's a great question.
I've heard things that there's something at the core of the earth, or that there's a species of aliens. I've heard something.
The hollow earth theory.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing too.
Right.
The whole nother thing.
I love that you know about it though, because
Yeah.
I'm just this is just the information I'm picking up. It's foggy. I'm just throwing little words out, but you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I do.
Interesting.
I do. So in the story, the gods get over it, the lower ranking gods get over it, throw a mutiny against the higher gods, and then the higher gods are like, all right, chill, we got an idea. And there's a specific god in the Sumerian stories known as Enki. Enki, Lord of Earth, because Ki means earth. Enki, Lord of Earth. And he was like the scientist dude, very smart, cunning, kind of clever. And in the stories, he's kind of it's kind of funny too. He's always sneaking behind the gods' backs and doing his own stuff. And he says in the stories that he knows of a beast that lives on the land, which is us in our caveman Neanderthal state.
You refer to us as beasts?
Yeah.
That's pretty accurate.
Yeah. And he says, I will upgrade them. I will upgrade them to be workers for us.
Wow.
So unfortunately, that's why we were created by the Anunnaki, was to be their workers.
Wow.
But over time, Enki and other more benevolent spiritual Anunnaki kind of felt bad and were like, maybe we should give them a little more consciousness. So over time, they kind of gave us more and more knowledge. And these were the first stories of Adam and Eve being given the fruit of the tree of the fruit from the tree of knowledge. And there are Sumerian precursors to the stories of Adam and Eve.
So you're saying that the tree of knowledge was indeed a good thing, a positive thing?
Well, I'm going to leave it neutral.
It's controversial.
It's controversial. Of course, in Christianity, it's a bad thing.
Right. Of course, the serpent and all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And in the occult, it was at least a neutral thing, but at the extreme, a really good thing. And that's where you get the Luciferians who believe Lucifer's the real God, and you know the God of the Bible is actually playing a trick on us, and he's the devil.
Right.
Gets deep.
It really does. I went to beauty school with a girl who's now part of a Satanist temple. She's all the way out in Boise. I'm hoping to have her out here eventually because I want to learn that perspective. You know, I question everything.
Yeah, as we should. Yeah,
absolutely.
As we should.
So you were saying too that like the Anunnaki has us here as like these workers, and we're given this consciousness, but in this present time, how you were kind of saying how like it's become a thing where like so many people are kind of stepping into this consciousness and this awareness. Do you think that this sense of like higher level of awareness is connected somehow to what the Anunnaki has given us, has gifted to us? Is there a connection there between that?
Absolutely. What is
the intention here behind this information? Because I feel as though like I am supposed to be doing this right now. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I would have never. My biggest fear is public speaking. Okay, nobody would have guessed that, but that is my biggest fear.
Wow.
And I just had this pressing need to just do this. I can't ever stop thinking about it. I know that this is what I need to do. And I know it's connected to my awakening, and I believe that so many other people are going to form those connections for themselves, and really identify a higher level of purpose. But where is this going? Where is this going to get us? What's going to happen after this?
Man, that's the question.
It's a high question. I know.
It's a high question.
No pressure.
We'll get there. But to answer the question about the awakening and how it correlates to the Anunnaki, I was just watching a interview today with Luis Elizondo. He's like he's the I guess army official who recently came out and like really started to give this disclosure to the people. He's been making his rounds on all kinds of podcasts and even on like national news.
Interesting.
Yeah, Luis Elizondo. He's kind of like at the very forefront from the army side as far as giving the people like real, good knowledge about what's going on. He can't tell us everything,
of course,
but he's trying his best to give us what he can, and he's already being threatened and all kinds of things, but
so what you're saying is the government is keeping secrets.
Oh, absolutely.
That is connected to the spirituality.
Absolutely. And what he said that made a lot of sense to me is he said, okay, he asked the interviewer, if you were, not even an alien, if you're just a human here and you wanted to leave your mark and let civilization know that you were here 1,000,000 years from now, how would you do that? What would you build? Because even the pyramids, as he said, are going to be gone in about 10,000 years, sadly.
Wow.
Everything that we know, if we don't upkeep it, is going to be gone in the next 10,000 years.
Damn.
So what do? How do you let the next civilization know that you were here? And the interviewer, he says, he's kind of a smart dude, so he's like, I would find the hardest material on Earth and carve something out of that and probably put it into orbit, so that it's just chilling there. This is a pretty good idea.
Wow.
Pretty good idea, but Luis Elizondo, a little more wiser than that, says, good, but I think not only does he think, but we know now that the way that the ancients did it was through genetics. They left their mark on us through genes.
Wow.
Yeah. The world of genes is fascinating. You can put memories, information inside of genes, and that can pass on through generations and generations and generations.
This is taking me back to your story with your grandpa.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What's crazy is that my grandpa actually is very similar to your grandfather. Yeah.
Is he a chain smoker?
No, everything but that, actually.
Good.
He's not a chain smoker, at least not anymore. I've never seen it, but he likes to be alone. He prefers it. He's seen a UFO. He's very deeply philosophical. For a long time, he didn't bother even stepping foot in a church. He did have a scare with his health, and that did reconnect him to the Bible, but he doesn't limit himself.
Yeah.
And I feel as though he is the only one in my family that I can truly dive into an authentic conversation, just like we are now, with my grandpa.
Nice.
And he can explain, you know, the things that he's seen, like UFOs that he's seen. He tells me the story all the time. The way he always ends it, though, is, you know, where is this going, though? Like, at the end of it, like, you know, what really matters is your family. Yeah. You know, he basically tells me, like, you can lose your mind trying to find all the answers in your life, or you can just remember also the true importance here is your family. So
absolutely.
And that's why I love him so much. He's misunderstood in my family, but I love him for that because I understand him.
Shout out to your grandpa.
Shout out to you, Grandpa. I love you.
Yeah, and my grandpa just had his 75th yesterday.
Happy birthday, Grandpa.
Yeah.
75.
Absolutely.
Going strong?
Yeah, strangely, you know.
Good.
Chain smoking his whole life, but still going strong. Something's keeping him there.
Genetics.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
saying.
Exactly. But I am building a case. I'm moving towards your question as far as where does it all go.
Okay.
So, as Luis Elizondo said, genetics, that's where these beings really hid themselves this whole time, right under our noses, literally, in our genes. Because we're starting to realize that there are some strange things about our genes. And, for example, our genes, they have, like, as you can imagine, little switches. Mm-hmm. Genes for hair, gene for eye color. But those are just the basics. We have a bunch of other little switches that for some weird reason have been turned off. Huh. And the gene in death or aging, which leads to death, is actually a genetic thing. It's a thing that happens in your genes. Your genes have these things called telomeres, and they can only revive so many times before they just start to die out. Wow. And our telomeres were, as we're seeing now with our scientific equipment, were at some point in our history genetically tampered with to only last a certain amount of time.
You said genetically tampered?
Yeah, genetically tampered with.
Wow.
So the switch, which is basically called the telomeres in our genes that regulates age, you know, an average lifespan, was tampered and set to its current state of about, you know, 80 to 100 years.
Fascinating. Isn't, too, like in the Bible, didn't people live like a lot longer back then?
Absolutely. And then, and strangely enough, in one verse, where did it happen? Forgot where it happens, but somewhere something happens, and then God in the Bible strangely just says, and then after that, man's life was shortened to 100 years.
Wow.
So we used to be privileged to live a really long time. And then
what did we do? What happened?
We messed it up. I don't remember
messed
the
it up
story,
for us.
Yeah. So there's something going on with our genes, and the awakening seems to be happening through our genes. Something's just causing us to awaken. I don't think it's just our genes. I think it's also the celestial movements that are playing a part of it. Okay. Just how like seasons wake flowers back up. Oh. So do the celestial seasons wake frequencies and genetics back up.
Are you talking about like the phases of the moon and such? The
phases of the moon, even bigger than that, you know, the planets aligning, even bigger than that, what's going on in our solar system, our galaxy. Wow. Like how the in the Eastern teachings, how they talk about like the Kali Yugas. Mm-hmm. You know how there's the golden age, like there's ages of consciousness, and it cycles. Right. There's an age where we lose consciousness and we go back to being brutish, and then it kind of comes back up into a spring, and then we become this glorious conscious being where we're building who knows what, you know. And then, so I think we're kind of going back to an age of enlightenment where we're waking back up to the highest self.
Wow. Now, what if we don't want to lose that?
That's the scary thing. That's the beautiful thing, really. I think the beautiful thing about it all is like that's a part of the game. Right. You know, it's kind of like build it up and destroy it. Build it up and destroy it.
Because as humans, we kind of are self-destructive. Yeah. Naturally, if you think about it, like you're talking about cycles, even with ourselves. Just with myself, I go through cycles. Yeah. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's all connected.
Yeah. And that's like the primary goal of like as you can say like the Luciferians in a way, like the more darker the people who practice the dark arts in our world. That's like their main concern, their main fear is dying. They always want to live long.
Interesting.
You know, that's why they're always like all these like technocratic people like Elon Musk and Bezos, all these technocrats. They always want to try and live long.
A lot of scientists, they're trying to figure out how to live forever.
Yeah, and then God teaches you, no, that's not how you do it. You do it through consciousness. You know, through eternity. Eternity is reached through consciousness.
Absolutely.
Not through trying to be some zombie, like keeping your body going. You know, it's meant to perish.
Have you heard of transhumanism?
Yeah.
When I found that on YouTube,
yeah,
I saw it on like a real news channel, like a world news channel, BBC or something like that. Scientists are literally trying to put our consciousness into the internet so that we can live forever and not experience any emotional dissatisfaction, any physical ailments, mental stability all the time. And it's like, what actually happens to us when we always feel one emotion?
That's when you become a gray alien.
Thank you. I just got chills. I wasn't even thinking that, but like, whoa, you took me back to something.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's very scary to see that that's what we are entering. Because again, remember I told you what my bus instructor's theory is, that the grays are in a paralleled universe, evolved versions of us once we've outlived all of our resources, all of our natural resources, perhaps.
Yeah. And it's, I don't mean to be racist on this, but I feel like if any race is going to outlive the other, it's going to be the Chinese race. Because
of the advancement with their intellect. I mean, they're like because so smart.
They're moving towards that.
I'm not trying to be racist either. Like, I genuinely admire the Asian mind because they got it down. They are doing something right.
Well, China's a trip right now. What they're doing with like the social credit system and like, I don't know if you've seen that, but in China they have cameras everywhere and they're implementing this thing where it's facial recognition and all that stuff. And if you get caught through the camera system doing like something that's not moral or something that's not ethical, it docks your point. So you start to lose social status and things that you can do in society, like take the bus or buy groceries. Yeah, even like little things like, for example, like some dude like didn't throw his trash all the way in the trash can, kind of just left it there. So that was seen as lazy by the Chinese government, and that docks his point. And you know, granted, we should all be doing our part, but like we shouldn't be forced in that way.
That's kind of scary. Yeah,
so that's why I say, like, if anybody on this planet is going to move towards becoming that, it's going to be those dudes.
You know? That's like overly strict discipline.
Yeah.
And there's something very invasive about always being watched like that.
Yeah.
I mean, to just be out in public and have your face scanned and know your identity, I mean, don't get me wrong. With crime, that could be a good thing, but... If you're just an everyday person and it becomes micromanagerial, I mean, will we enter a state of paranoia as people? Like, oh my God, like I can never just relax.
Yeah, absolutely we will.
What if the guy forgot? What if the guy didn't even see? What if that was an accident?
Yeah.
And he turned around and he didn't even realize?
Yeah.
There's no room for... what is the term with justice system? Innocent until proven guilty. Like that's not even a thing. It seems
that's even going out the window here now with like cultural regulation. We just police each other now. You know,
isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
I feel like I mean, we can go. I don't want to talk about politics here, but COVID definitely like created further division, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not going to speak on topics of that either.
Yeah. I can get political too. That's actually another aspect of what I do, what I research. But I don't want to get into that right now. I want to go back to the aliens and stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, so here where we're at. So these beings, they genetically upgraded Neanderthal to Homo sapien. Over time, started sneaking in a little more genetic consciousness to some of us, and even just knowledge, just general knowledge. And left it behind for us to safeguard, and that's what the first priesthoods of mysticism was this channeling of knowledge from the gods to us, and then when they left, priesthoods were born to safeguard that knowledge, and those were the first forms of secret societies, which were later turned evil through just our degradation of human form.
Wow.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah. So, all right. Now I want to lead you back to my personal life.
Yeah, make that
Another
connection.
Awakening, breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like 13, 14, going through all that. And then I come across another very important book that is well researched. What's the word? It's huge. It's huge in the occult and conspiracy world, esoteric world. It's known as the Emerald Tablets of Toth.
Okay.
The Emerald Tablets of Toth.
Emerald Tablets of Toth.
Of Toth. So Toth was an Egyptian god. He was the god of writing, god of knowledge. He had the ibis head.
Mm.
Like the ibis is like the skinny beaked bird.
We have seen that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's cool, and he's also supposedly that's a reincarnation of himself. Before that, he was this Sumerian god Ningishida. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but Ningishida. And then, so he was Ningishida, and then he was Toth, and then he was reincarnated the last time as Hermes Trismegistus, which he is widely known in the Western world as Hermes Trismegistus. So the tarot deck, like tarot cards.
I got a deck right here, actually.
That's probably, was that the...
It's Rider-Waite.
The Rider, yeah. So the tarot deck actually was... It's said that the tarot deck was created by Toth.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was created by Toth, and his priests, they implemented some of his knowledge in the tarot deck, the original tarot deck. So it was originally like a way to safeguard knowledge, and if you understood what the symbols meant, then you could decipher the knowledge and keep it going.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love that. I appreciate that a lot, because when I do readings, I really, really like to look at the pictures. Mm-hmm. I know there's meaning in the cards, but if you really look at the pictures too, you can associate and even make a deeper connection to your readings with yourself, or whoever you're reading. It's interesting to see that.
Yeah, Hermes, it can be said to be the father of all modern occult. When you start diving into the occult and the esoteric, you're going to see that name a lot, because he is the father of modern occult. Mm-hmm. There basically wouldn't be a modern occult if it wasn't for Hermes. And what is called the Emerald Tablets of Toth and the Emerald Tablet of Hermes. Mm-hmm. It's where the great axiom, as above, so below, comes from.
Okay.
He's the one who said that.
So he's the one who started that.
Absolutely.
Interesting. I never knew that.
Yeah, and I don't know if you like Led Zeppelin. If you've seen like the cover art for Stairway to Heaven, that dude holding the lamp.
Yeah.
Which is that's Hermes, the hermit from the tarot deck. The hermit. That's a depiction of like Hermes.
Wow.
Yeah. Jimmy Page, the guitarist of Led Zeppelin, was super into the occult. He knew about all this stuff.
Crazy.
Yeah. That's why I love that song, Stairway to Heaven, because I feel like it was channeled. I feel it was definitely channeled to them.
And I feel like everybody kind of feels like a connection to that song. Like, how do you not like that song?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Anybody.
I do know a girl who finds it scary.
Ah.
But it's because she's not very spiritual, though.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And fear, what I believe about fear is that it's not a bad thing. The feeling that it's bad, but I believe that that's the ego holding you back. It's restraint.
It's energy. And going back to Toth and the Emerald Tablets, so I started reading that. I found that around 13, 14 through my studies, and it's a pretty powerful book. To be honest, I to this day I haven't finished the whole thing. Every time I bring it back into my life and start reading it, stuff gets weird. Gets weird.
How so?
So the first time I started reading it was on the computer.
Okay.
I found it online, and I'd come home and I'd read it. I was trying to read it, and he talks about fear. He talks about fear in the book, and it's pretty interesting. He says whenever you feel the sense of fear come up, you got to distinguish: is it coming from yourself or an external factor, an external being? Sorry, I had like some really good food earlier.
It's okay.
So he says if it's coming from yourself, if you're just causing fear in yourself, as we can do sometimes, he says don't worry, just work it out, do what you gotta do, drink tea, chill.
Yeah.
But if you can sense like, no, this isn't coming from me. Something's here with me. He teaches you how to expel those things. So when you feel the initial feeling of fear, it's an energy. So what you do is you transmute it. And the way he says it is you got to feel the power in your brain center, and then you send like a shock wave throughout your whole body. And it
from the brain.
Yeah, from the brain. You literally got to like tune into the center of your brain, and you like send like a shock wave out of it. The only way I can describe it is like when you flex. You know, if you like flex, you can almost feel like your body exuding energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
You gotta try to do that from your brain. So you exude that wave from your brain center, and it goes all across your body. And now the fear transmutates into just pure power, raw power. And then you hold that, and then you exert it outward, and you kind of just expel whatever's there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's actually very interesting. Now I'm going to tell you about my first experience with the vaccine.
Okay.
I had the vaccine.
Sure, yeah.
I was scared, okay? I had a dream that I was getting the vaccine because I had a job in the medical field in my dream and I needed it. So I got the vaccine, and as the serum was going into me, I died, and then I woke up, and so I was tripped out. This is when like they first came out that like they had one, right? And they were saying like everybody needs to get it, and I was like, hold on. You know, it took me a while because of the dream. I mean, I take my dreams very seriously now. Yeah, very seriously.
Absolutely.
So I just held off for the longest time, and you know, my grandma is the main reason why I did it. You know, she was concerned, you know, she's like, I just don't want you to jeopardize, you know, my health. And that was enough, you know. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do it. So I got it. I was tripping out there. The nurse was like, you have a very powerful mind, because I was like tripping out, you know, talking about my dream and everything. And they were laughing at me, but they're like, you know, you have a very powerful mind, just relax, you know. So everything turned out fine. But when I went to bed that night, I was about to doze off. I'm laying down, my eyes are closed, and out of nowhere I felt like I had no control over my nervous system. And I felt this twitching coming from my brain, but it would shoot out to the ends of all of my limbs, both my hands and my feet, and literally my hands would twitch like this when the shock would reach my fingertips. And I also did the same thing to my feet, and my head was twitching too. I had no control over it. But that kind of sounds a lot like what you're explaining, like that wave of frequency just kind of shaking it. I wonder if that was like a natural response in my body, like rejecting either the fear and the idea of it being bad, or maybe even something more. I don't know.
Well, I'm not getting the vaccine now.
I called the nurse. I'm like, I just need somebody to give me a logical explanation as to why it's affecting my nervous system. And he couldn't do that, which scared me. And he said, if it gets worse, come to the emergency room.
He's just like, I don't know.
I was going to sleep. I'm like, I gotta go to bed. I'm like, I'm gonna wake up tomorrow or I'm not.
Like, can you reset this thing, dude? What the heck?
Obviously I'm here and I'm fine. I'm good. But it's just interesting what the mind can do, how it can affect the body physically. It's all connected.
As above, so below.
Exactly. And I really appreciate that you kind of went through, you know, the whole brain and just releasing that frequency to kind of protect. We have so much power over it, and I really, really believe that. I always tell myself, if there's even just an ounce of fear around me, I always say, I am always protected. Like, why am I freaking out right now? I am always protected. I've got my selenite over here. Like, I'm protected. I got my sage, Palo Santo. Like, there's no reason, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I got a story for you too. So when I was reading that, the first weird thing happened. Actually, my first astral projection experience occurred. And I didn't know that it was astral projection at the time. So, yeah, I didn't know it. So, and in the book, he teaches you how to astral project. Yeah, I didn't even really know what that was when I was reading it. So I'm reading all this stuff, and I'm getting tired. I'm like, all right, I gotta put this away for now. Let me go to bed. to go to sleep, and then I wake up to go to the bathroom, and then the way my room was situated, like where I'm laying down, I can see the light from my parents' room shining down the hallway when they're watching TV at night. So that's all I see. I just see the hallway, the light, and I'm like, all right, let me get up to go to the bathroom. So I get up, and everything's just kind of slow, like I'm in the ocean or something. And I'm trying to walk to the bathroom, but I'm just like slowly falling. I'm like, what? I'm like, all right, I guess I'm dreaming. I guess I'm dreaming.
Yeah.
And I just hit the floor, and I'm just sitting there for like a few seconds. And I like snap back into my body again. All right, I'm awake now. Let me go to the bathroom. Same thing happens. I get up, try to go, fall down like a feather, like I'm in the ocean, and then just lay there. And I'm like, this is a weird dream, man. I'm just trying to go to the bathroom,
Whoa.
Third time, wake up, and this time I'm really awake. Time's like normal again. I can feel everything, and I'm like, all right. That was weird.
Yeah.
Didn't know it was astral projection until... So after that experience, I kind of like put the book of Toth away for a while. And then it wasn't until years later that I picked it back up again. I was on probation in high school. And at this specific time period, my brothers were out of the house. My dad was gone for a couple of weeks doing a job. My sister was out of the house. My mom was working all the time. So I was basically alone most of my time. And I was on house arrest. So all I had to do was chill at the house and
sit with yourself.
Yeah, so I was like, well, it's probably a good time to pick back up all the occult stuff.
Yeah,
so
why not, right?
I dived back into it.
Wow.
And this time I had a physical copy of the Emerald Tablets. So I'm going back, reading it, and then kind of the same spot where I stopped before, just kind of stopped there. I don't know why. I just could never get past that part. It kind of spooked me. And it's the part where he talks about kind of like conjuring spirits and stuff, and like how to do that.
Wow.
And this time I have another astral projection experience, but this time I know that I'm astral projecting because now I know what it is at this time. So I go to bed, and then I wake up in my room, and I just see the moon shining in my room, and I'm like, oh, like I'm astral projecting. I'm like, heck yeah. So I get up from my body. I don't turn around to see my body, but I get up, and I'm just floating in that weird like state now that I know. Now I know that's what it was. So I'm just floating in that weird state, and then I like move through my door, and I can see downstairs, and then I feel like this presence to the left of me, and I turn, and there's just this huge like dark energy. It's just there's this dark energy form thing there. And at first I felt fear, and then I remembered what Toth said about fear, and then I felt like this laser beam shoot from where the book was in my room to my brain. It was like the knowledge was being like transmitted instantaneously. Wow. And I was like, oh yeah, I got this. So like I did that whole thing, and like literally light came out of like my light body and shot at this thing, and it disappeared. And then I snapped back into my body, and I was like, whoa, like that was a trip. And I just got up, got some water, and went back to sleep. Didn't really think much about it till the next day. My mom asked to take me out to breakfast. Sitting there talking, didn't mention to her, and then she asked me like, hey, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm doing fine, whatever. She's like, are you sure? Because I passed by your room last night, and like I just felt something so dark that I had to like stop and pray for you.
Ooh, I got chills right now. Wow.
Yeah, I did too. I was just like eating, and I was like, oh, that's weird. I never told her the story, but...
Whoa. You didn't tell her?
No, I didn't want to freak her out. Yeah.
Because, if she didn't have that awareness and, like, that knowing that protection and how to, protect herself, it could have created vulnerability. And then that's essentially what dark energy does. It preys on the weak. And when we leave our bodies, that is a form of weakness, if you will, because our body is empty. It's an invitation. That's all they want.
Yeah, they're just trying to
take form.
Yeah, so that was my astral projection experience, and then I wanted to connect that to the whole genetic and where we're going. I think eventually where this is all going is as the New Age or the occult teaches us or even the Bible strangely says that, after this earth has gone, we're going to be given new bodies. Oh. Yeah. Which is such a strange thing. Yeah. Well, the good, the people who are on the side of the J-man.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, that's where we're going. Eventually we're supposed to be upgraded and given an infinite body. Wow. An infinite body where It's made mostly of light. And really what we're doing is we're going back to what we really were. So we're kind of going back to what we were. But what's supposed to happen, or the goal is to break the cycle of the life and death thing.
Okay.
So there has to come a point in time in the universe or whatever we're in where all that needed to be done has finally been done. Mm-hmm. All that is evil has finally come to light and it is seen as evil, and all that is good has come to light and is seen as good and can finally be separated. And evil, as you know, the occult and the New Age teaches, mm-hmm. and even the religions teach, will be vanquished forever. And then all that is good that is left over will be granted this infinite body of consciousness that will no longer die and will forever remember itself and forever be able to create.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It's like truth being sorted out. So what you're saying is we will reach that point.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal. That's the battle we're in, and that's why every day lies and lies and lies are taught to
Absolutely.
Make that to stop that from happening.
Yeah, it's like hypnotizing to people who are not aware. And that's why this is so important, spreading it.
And that's why sin is such a big thing in Christianity and mm-hmm. in other religions too. It's not so much that like you need to be kept in line with authority, but it's because, as the Bible says, the wages of sin are death. Mm-hmm. You know, when you are truly living in the dark and evil ways, like you're vanquishing your own soul. You're giving that up.
Absolutely. And I believe that even connects to self-sabotage. When we tell ourselves, like, you're not good enough, you don't deserve this, I'm always going to be, here, stuck here. Like, that literally is a form of death because you're not growing, you're not evolving. And isn't that the point of being here?
Yeah. This is a school.
Absolutely. This world
Welcome
is my
to
campus.
School.
Yes, this is real school.
Yeah.
Real life school.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I agree. Wow. So many, so much truth, Eddie.
Yes.
You have a brilliant mind, and I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you for taking the time to be here with me today.
Yeah.
And to just be authentic.
Yes.
I love that it comes easy for you because for a long time I was lost. And now I feel like I'm just barely getting started and on my journey. And it's people like you that help validate and support this path, this alignment that I'm on.
Cool.
So I'm very grateful for you.
No, I'm grateful for you. Grateful for this opportunity to speak to the people.
It's great. So, you've started a new channel, correct?
I have.
On YouTube.
Yeah.
For listeners to dive deeper into the ideas of aliens and
the esoteric and the occult.
I'm definitely going to watch that
now.
So please tell us, how can we find you?
Yeah, I invite you and the listeners as well. I just dropped a new YouTube channel. It's called, it's under Esoteric Eddie TV. That's also my Instagram, Esoteric Eddie. I have 3 videos on there right now. 2 of them are compilation videos on UFOs and the occult. Kind of like just cool little clips that I've found and put together to build a narrative to kind of let you make up your own mind.
That's great.
I grew up on those videos. Like some of the early videos that I watched that blew my mind and got me on this path were like those kind of videos. Those kind of like little compilation videos of. So I love those. So I'm kind of.
So now you're just forming your own for everybody else.
Giving back to my to what helped me.
Love that.
And then I have one full-length documentary that I actually put together. I hired some professional narrators to like narrate the script for me and stuff.
Wow.
Put some like cool like video in there, and it's about Eliphas Levi, the 19th century French occultist, who was famously known for drawing the Baphomet illustration, which is the half man, half goat illustration. Yeah, he's a trip. He's got a really interesting life. So I go through his life works in that documentary. He was actually a Catholic. He was a Catholic.
I swear, it all starts there.
Yeah, but he was a mystic. He was a mystic, and he got kicked out of Catholicism and went through a whole interesting life story, and then found esotericism, and then
took off from there.
So he's very important in the occult and esoteric communities. Check it out, Eliphas Levi. And I actually got a book in the works too.
Eddie, you're on fire.
I try to be. I got a book that I spent the past 2 years working on through the whole pandemic. It's coming out this December.
Perfect timing.
This December.
Perfect timing.
And it's going to be titled The Luciferian Mystery Revealed.
Wow. I am definitely picking up a copy of that.
I'll give you one for free.
Oh my gosh.
Just for the opportunity.
I'm so lucky. Hell
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hell yes. Well, I'm going to leave all of his information in the description box below. So like and subscribe to this video and definitely check him out. He's got a lot to offer. This is just the beginning. He will definitely be back. So thank you for being with me today. So much, Eddie. If you felt this in your heart, in your soul, in your center, then please subscribe for more soulful messages. And most importantly, be somebody's angel today and share this episode. Until next time, Angelians, peace and love.